So I figured it's time to update you guys on another investment that Palantir has made. They've made the decision to put $25 million into a stock that I'm about to mention. But before I actually mention the company, you have to realize that not only has Palantir's revenue dramatically grown this year, but they are also a company that is entirely debt-free, which means given all the extra cash that they have on hand, they are able to place these small bets on companies that they think will succeed. And honestly, I know I say small, but that's relatively speaking. I know $25 million is definitely a lot, but considering that Palantir has made $1.1 billion in revenue in 2020 alone, and they currently have about $2.3 billion in cash, this investment is only a 1% allocation of their free cash that they have on hand. And if you take a look at Palantir's history of past investments, they've made some pretty interesting and risky ones, a few of which being Lilium, a German flying taxi company, Cellularity, a biotech firm looking to cure cancer, and more recently on August 17th, it was announced that Palantir purchased $50 million in gold bars. And it's still unclear if Palantir is buying any Bitcoin at the moment. So with all this exposure and variety that they're getting and all these different investments, you might be wondering what they recently bought $25 million of. And the answer is Faraday Future, which is an American electric vehicle startup company, which trades under the ticker FFIE. So let's get into this recent news and what exactly this means for both Palantir and Faraday. And if you're also interested in Faraday Future as a stock investment that you might want to purchase, I'll be getting into that as well. So Faraday Future actually became publicly traded this year in 2021. And in addition, Faraday Future signed a commercial contract to use Palantir's software. And honestly, anyone who's been following Palantir somewhat closely knows that this is awesome news, because one of Palantir's recent goals has been to expand beyond government contracts and start work on appealing to commercial customers. And the interesting thing about this is that neither company has disclosed how much Faraday Future is paying, though Palantir's filing notes the contract will last between 4 to 6 years. And representatives for both companies did not immediately respond to requests for comment at all. So if anything, this recent deal is just more proof that Palantir is continuing to fulfill the promises they've been claiming, albeit they're being a little opaque on the exact details. And just for some background, for anyone who has maybe heard of Palantir but doesn't know exactly what they do, that would take an entire video to make, but to sum it up, they are a software company that is evil, according to this Reddit user, which got 121 upvotes, so I think we should be taking this pretty seriously, as I do with all Reddit comments. But that aside, they are an incredible software company that is meant to serve as a central operating system for companies that need to sift through huge amounts of data. Palantir's customers have included the US Customs and Border Protection Agency, which use Palantir to track immigrants in the United States, as well as police departments who got to try out Palantir's controversial predictive policing software that allowed police departments to track violent gang criminals. Even US naval forces are now using Palantir's software to track submarines across the globe. So as you can see, Palantir doesn't come without some controversy. But if we put that all aside, the actual software that Palantir is offering the world is nothing short of groundbreaking and next gen. So knowing all this, why would Palantir invest millions in an EV startup? And why this one specifically when there are a ton of others out there? Well, Palantir has a history of not only investing in startups, but also selling companies that they invest in their own software, sort of like a symbiotic relationship. And this should come as no surprise, but Palantir's investment was part of a private investment in public equity, or PIPE, that was actually able to help Faraday Future go public in the first place. And you can kind of think of PIPEs as essentially starting a fundraising round that happens simultaneously with many SPAC mergers. And Faraday Future specifically was able to raise a total of $795 million in its PIPE, which included not only Palantir's $25 million contribution, but also other investors like Geely, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who is China's largest private automaker. And remember how I mentioned that Palantir has a history of investing in startups? Well, in some of those instances, Palantir has of course followed up its investment with a deal to sell the software service to the company in question. And if you think about electric vehicles, a vast amount of data has to be gathered and collected. And this makes even more sense when you realize that Faraday Future isn't just pursuing electric vehicles, they're also pursuing autonomous driving, which is where the main bulk of their data collection will be coming from, at least once the vehicles are actually built. Faraday's first vehicle, which they call the FF91 SUV, isn't supposed to go into production until at least July 2022, and has already been delayed for years, because this is actually a company that has struggled to meet deadlines. But once this vehicle actually exists, the electric SUV will be dotted with sensors and cameras meant to power an advanced driver assistance system in the near term, and one day perhaps something closer to full autonomy, which of course is what they're looking to achieve. And the inside of the SUV will be even more of a data-driven machine. The company's claiming that there will be cameras in every seat capable of performing facial recognition, which will be used to quickly pull up all sorts of preferences for the drivers and passengers, like their personalized app and media libraries, as well as some more standard things like favorite seating positions and climate settings. So to wrap this all up, if you're curious if I'm going to be investing in Faraday Future, I am not. I already have a few high-risk, high-reward stocks in my portfolio, and I won't be looking to add any more unless I come across something truly special. Faraday Future does seem like it has the potential to grow into an impressive company, but at the same time, this is still a company that was only founded in 2014, so it's not even a decade old at the time of recording this video. And of course, the company still has a lot to prove, being that they actually don't have any vehicles on the road yet. And of course, just because Palantir is investing in something doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to skyrocket in the future. But with that being said, it's still a pretty interesting EV company nonetheless. We'll just have to wait and see how Faraday Future will stack up against all the other EV competition that the world will start to see as the decade progresses. And yeah guys, that'll do it for the video today. Thanks as always, and I'll see you next time.